Morning, everyone.
And why don't they allow me to complete this form like that, like PDF it? How do you PDF complete the form?
You could complete it.
Us Cape Town girls.
Chilly, but not too bad.
Yeah, it actually feels as if spring is in the air here.
Yeah.
Okay.
The rain's gone, which is, we've got the water, we don't need any more now.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, no, we've had a lot of rain as well, even this morning and last night. So coming into town from St. Francis, we had to go through riots, rain, and stop and goes, but we got you on time. So
Sounds exciting.
morning, Becky. Becky, can you hear me?
What's happening now?
I think you muted, Becky.
Good
Can
morning.
you guys hear me now? Maybe my headgear is not working.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Oh, okay, no, cool. I think something in my headgear. Anyway, I was just saying good morning. I'm gonna mute and listening.
Okay, don't worry. I think you're one of many who have little ones in the background, so you're not alone.
Yeah, so I don't want to spoil the meeting.
Morning,
cheers,
everyone.
guys.
Let's give it a little bit longer for everyone just to join. Oh, can you believe we're halfway through August already? It's scary.
It's going far too fast.
Yeah, they always say as you get older, time flies by quicker, but I'm glad to hear that it's happening for others as well.
Yeah, well, I'm older than you, I think so.
Okay, you speak on someone young. Dominic,
Yeah.
is this year gone quickly for you as well?
Too quickly.
Okay,
But-
good. Now, see, we feel better now.
I'm glad that we through the winters and now we've got the next few months to look forward to.
Yeah. Morning, Simon.
Hi there,
Morning,
Dirk. How are you?
everyone.
Morning, morning.
Morning, Jean.
Good,
Jean.
good. Morning, June. Okay, guys, I think let's slowly get started. Okay, just the newbies. Lebo, I think you're new to the group. Would you mind just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you?
Sorry, can you just repeat that? I missed that.
Can you just introduce yourself to the group, like who you are, where you work, and why you've joined the group, what you're hoping to get out of it?
Oh, all right. As you can see, my name is Lebo. I'm currently working for PPS, and I've been in the industry for just over 15 years. I've worked for all the major insurance companies, and I'm hoping to learn as much as possible because, you know, there's so many industry changes. So it's always nice to read in the group that, you know, there's something new every day. So I'm hoping to learn as much as possible from the group. I was actually removed from the group and I was very heartbroken. Because I didn't know the rules. I don't know if I didn't go through the rules or the rules were not posted. I can't remember, but I said the next meeting I'm definitely not missing, because I don't want to ever be removed again.
Yeah, no, Lebo, no, I'm sorry about that. No, it's just there's kind of a written rule that if we miss 3 sessions in a row, then because the group has really grown, you know, from where they started with Alex, Simon, and Russell. it's grown into something which I didn't quite expect. So we're just trying to
Yes.
keep it, and you know, the big emphasis is on sharing. So you know, if we kind of feel that if you miss 3 sessions in a row, then maybe your life's a bit busy at the moment, which is absolutely
Yeah,
fine.
it's true, and you're just not interested. So
Yeah, so
it makes
so that's
sense.
okay. Yeah, so
Yes.
it's not personal, please. It's not
No,
personal.
no, I understood that very well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks. Becky, do you want to just introduce yourself? Okay, we can't hear you. We can see you.
So I think my headgear is not working. Can you hear me now?
Mm,
Okay.
yep,
Yeah,
we
no,
can.
I was gonna say, Lebo, I need to know those rules before I get into trouble. But anyway, yeah, no. So my name Becky. I've been in the industry 20 years. Also worked for a few big corporates, but now I've gone independent as an independent consultant. So hoping to also learn from colleagues on the call and share my little 2 cents. That's about it. I think, Dick, you're now muted now.
Sorry. So Becky, I think are you an actuary? I know you're a CFA. I think so. You're very well qualified on the other side of the fence.
Yeah, no, so I studied economics. So my undergrad is in economics and did my CFA and 2 postgraduate diplomas in financial planning. But then at the moment, I'm not a practicing CFP because I just haven't had the time to do the CPD and stuff like that.
Okay, all right. Okay, so welcome from the dark side.
No, thanks. Thanks for it.
We always say the guys on the asset management side, my mates there, always say we do all the work and you make all the money. So welcome to the poor side of the industry.
I don't know about that decade. So if you look globally, I think financial advice is actually the piece of the industry that's actually growing in margins. So if you look at platform fees, asset management fees globally, I mean, I'm in Europe right now. I mean, fund management is not easy pickings. I can say that for sure without any hesitation. So I think the advice space, I mean, you guys shouldn't look at it as some sort of like sideshow of the industry. I think it's the central part of the industry, and the industry is going to be increasingly centered around financial advice. So I think if there's any message I want to share to the group, that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely, and that's why my comment always meant with a bit of sarcasm, because we have always done all the good work.
No, I knew that. No, cool.
Okay.
But looking forward to the conversations, though. Sorry, Dick.
Is there anyone else who's new to the group? I'm sorry, I've been rushing this morning. Anyone else that's new to the group that hasn't introduced themselves? Okay, cool. Okay, so Frank has very kindly offered to take us through his business's onboarding process. Remember, the group is all about trying to look at practical ways that we can improve the way that we work, our offering to our clients, and improve our businesses. So Frank's quite unique. He's an accountant, but not your regular accountant. He's got a great personality. He's also a great financial planner. He does lifestyle financial planning very well. I'm aware of that. But it is quite interesting. Frank, I'm really interested in how you combine the accounting side of your business with the financial planning side. But I think it's maybe something you can share with us a bit later. Yeah, but just if I can hand over to you, and just if you can just take us through your onboarding process, and then I don't know if you also got how you would then go into your reviews and things like that. All yours.
Thanks, Dirk. Thank you for inviting me to share with everyone, and thank you for everyone for giving me a little bit of your time this morning just to share on our processes. Disclaimer, what I'm going to share today, we didn't start like this. We also just grown into what I'm going to position today, and very much still developing as we go along. And Dirk, I like the new styling there. I see that you also are styling some roughness there. Looking good, man. So I believe, we're all advisors, so you must have pens and papers and all of those type of things with you. So I would like you to participate just in a few questions, and it's for your own consideration and your own reflection. But please do participate. I will really appreciate it. It just means that you guys are involved in the session. So first question I would like to ask you this morning is, what would you like to get out of today's session, or what would you like to have as a takeaway? Just give you a minute or a few seconds just to think about that question, and just to write down, what is it that you would like to take away out of the session today? Okay, even if it's only one thing, not expecting essays, then the second question is, I would like you to write this question down, and that is, what is my enough? Just write that question down. What is my enough? That's a question that you ask yourself. So while you're doing that, I would like to jump to Cindy. Cindy, maybe if you wouldn't mind, are you okay? There we go. Cindy, if you would just like to maybe share with me just who you are, just to tell me a little bit about yourself. Just tell me about who Cindy is.
Okay, she is firstly a wife and mother, and then financial planner. And as I've told my two children, one's turning 22 this week, the other one's 20 this morning, that all I ever wanted in life was just to have a husband who adores me. He does. And my 2.5 children, and my, that little scenario, and a comfortable house, and I have that. And that is my enough. Honestly, that's my enough. I don't need much more than that.
That's great. And where are you from, Cindy? Where are you from? Where did you grow up, and where did you go to school?
I grew up in Camps Bay. I went to school in Camps Bay, and I now live in Constantia. As I said, married, 2 kids. Studied teaching when I left school. 2 girls.
Oh, I relate. I've also got 2. But I'm in the teenage years now. And where are they finish with school? Are they varsity? What are they doing?
Yeah, both are at varsity now in Cape Town.
Okay,
one's
lovely.
doing
And
BSc. One's doing BSc, one's doing psychology.
Oh, lovely. And a passion for psychology? Is that part of these?
Yeah.
Is that comes from family? Is that family that's been psychologists?
Not sure. It's who she is. When you see something in a kid and you just allow it to blossom, it's who she is. She's a mother. Yeah. She's a mother. When she was at school, a lot of the younger grades used to call her mom. She was their school mom. So she likes to look after people. She's really a bit too empathetic, I think, sometimes around other people. So easy to get sucked in and sad and all of that stuff.
That's shame, man. And it's actually a wonderful trait to have as well. Does she stay in hostel? Does she stay in the digs, or does she travel?
Both of my children, they're each in the bedroom in their own bedrooms next to ours. They ain't going anywhere. Firstly, their parents aren't paying for them to go anywhere, and secondly, they're saying, "Are you crazy?" No, they like home.
You're like a mama hen, like to keep the family just there. It's awesome. Yeah. And I see you've got white lilies there in the background. Is that one of your favorite flowers?
No, you've actually, you know what? That's very interesting that you asked that question, because they are not lilies. They're just green plants. But the light, the sun is rising here in the east, and so it's. But actually, white lilies are my favorite flowers, but I don't have any in the office.
They do look like white lilies when you look at when the sun falls on it, very much so.
I can see. Yeah.
All right, so so I would like to ask maybe Marguerite. Marguerite, what is your experience on the financial planning industry, or your perception?
Oh, sure, Frank, my perception. This is a dangerous question. I think it's a very multifaceted profession. Personally, I feel attracted to it because there's always something new to learn, and I enjoy building long-term relationships with clients. So this has given me the perfect opportunity to do that. I'm also aware that there are parts of the profession that doesn't have a good reputation, parts that seem to need a redesign or a greater awareness of what it really means to put clients at the center of what we do. And yeah, that's the part that I'm also passionate about, in seeing how that grows and evolves and develops over the next few years.
You said it's quite a dangerous question. Why would you make that statement?
Because I think there's bad and good in the industry, and for us to really make a difference, we need to be courageous enough to look at both parts.
Okay,
and
great.
to not whitewash the situation, but to actually call out what we see, or in our own little way try and make a difference in those areas.
Okay, all right, great, guys. Thanks Marguerite, thanks Cindy for participating and just sharing with us. So that what I've just positioned there is part of our process. When we have our first meeting with a client, we call it a coffee meeting or a connect meeting. We really just want to connect with a client. We want to try to see where the client's at, who the client is, get a feel. And as the client sharing, we will make notes, because you read a lot between the lines, and then from there you can build other questions. And it's clearly based on it's just based purely on who is this client that we're talking to. And so one of our at our first meeting, which we call a connect meeting, we usually say it's about 60 minutes, but we know sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. It depends on the client itself and their circumstances and what they're sharing and how open they are at the first meeting. And the main purpose of that meeting is like I've mentioned, is to connect with the client and also determine what type of life stage they're at. Where do they find themselves in their life stage, and what is the client also passionate about? So I could have even go further with Cindy, for example, just on the lilies. So as I was, and that was just as I walked in, as Cindy came into the meeting, that's the first thing I paid attention to. What is around her? You know, and let me use that as trigger points to be able to connect with the client, and just to see just to direct the session into a meeting that is away from products. Just actually is coming back to who the client is and what the client's circumstances is. And one of the questions that we will also go into is, for example, is why did you reach out to us? And just to understand, you know, why did the client make contact, or if it was a referral, we'll position the question maybe a little bit differently. We will ask the client then also, how did you find us? How did you get to hear about us? How did you reach us? Just to understand that as well, you know, what mediums and what platforms, or was it a word of mouth, etc. We keep stats of all those type of things, and to see what works, what doesn't work. And then we go into the question of, tell me about yourself, you know, where you're from, where did you go to school? If we talk about the client, who you are, they would say usually, I'm a financial advisor, I'm this, some of this, but no, who are you? Cindy, who are you? What is your background? You know, where do you come from? What is it you're passionate about? What makes you tick? And we ask small little questions just to really connect with the client. We want to position that meeting, and we do tell the client, just bear with us, you know, just bear with us with the process. I will build the client in. If the client wants to go products and speak about products, we will pause it and say, we will get to that. We would just like you to just bear with us today. If you don't mind, just give us this first meeting, just to see who you are, and also for you maybe to find out who we are. So we will never go in positioning ourselves. This is our services, this. We will really much focus on just tell us who you are, who are you, and what are your circumstances, what makes you tick, and etc. etc. So, and in that, the client naturally come to us and want to know a little bit about us. What we will do then is we will position our our services in a way, but it will just touch on it. We won't go into it much. And then we will refer to our life planning process. And we will always refer to the client as to say, this is a process. We would like, just bear with us for at least 2 meetings, and that we can just take you through our processes. You can experience it, because I can't tell you. You're not gonna. You might not. I'm not saying that to the client, but the client won't understand it. I need to let the client experience of the process that we want to expose them to. And so one of the things that we might get after now, we've asked a few questions, get to know the client, and let the conversation just flow as normal. It's like, we also say it's a coffee meeting. When we go for coffee with someone, we just talk. You talk about soccer, and you talk about sport, and you talk about this, and whatever the client shows interest in, and you will direct the question that way, always gearing to a final outcome. And the final outcome is to really understand the client and who they are. And one of the things that we will then go into is, then I will just share a few things with you as we go along, that you can just to give you also visually, we would like to speak to the client as well. So what we'll do with the client, we'll share with our client our, I'm just going to share the screen quickly. Just this is a new thing that we've introduced. Sorry, I just want to drop that down. We will share with the client our what lifestyle financial planning is at the end of that first session, just through a brochure explaining a little bit of our 3-hat approach, which we refer to as at 1 life planner, at 2 financial planner, financial advisor. Just unpack a little bit of that and just the benefits of lifestyle financial planning. The clients still don't really get it until it is something that you need to experience. And we have found that the client really do need to experience the process than just putting all these wonderful, words up on a page or on a presentation, etc. So we keep on encouraging. In the meeting, we encourage the client a lot to say, just bear with us. If the client says, yeah, but I've got this money and I've got this, I'm like, okay, you know what? Do you have an excess bond? Let's park the money there if you've got access to it. Or we can give you just a temporary money market if you want to take it out of your account to bother you that much. Let's just go put it here. But let's just park it for until we can delve a little bit deeper in the process. Because I'm going to give you advice now, but it might be so irrelevant to your circumstances. So if I can give you the correct advice, we need to go through the process. Again, I've highlighted that so much already. Just the process. And we really do that a lot with the client. Guys, I'm going to just drop down here. I'm going to open some of my pages, some of my documents. And one of the things that we might also jump into is we will take the client, then if they want to know a little bit more just about the lifestyle financial planning process, after sharing that brochure, we will also maybe just share this simple brochure with also a 1-pager with them, where we just talk about, listen, through this process, we're going to talk about you and your goals. And in that consists of your education, goals for that as well, work, retirement, home, travel, etc. Just a 1-pager. And then we also talk about when planning your goals in your lifestyle areas, we consider the following events, and we just refer to the events as well. So, but I do, again, no products, purely process. And again, that is something that we highlight all the time and encourage the time. So when they, at the end of that meeting, they like, we want them to be enticed to engage with us with the next session. So that meeting the outcome is to understand the client and to get an understanding of the client, not understanding of the client and their circumstances, and then also to entice them to engage for the next meeting. Because the next meeting, I'm going to go, if I go too fast, just please shout, because I'm trying to do like a 4-hour process here in half an hour. And then what the next thing is then we would do is we also refer to a bucket concept. We will tell them, listen, we do look at a bucket concept, which I'll explain now because we actually explain that more into the introduction meeting. But we do leave a few things for the client to like, okay, but what's this? What are you talking about here? You haven't talked once about any products or anything like that. You just speak completely about a process the whole time. And that is what we want the clients to buy into. And of course, very important, extremely important, is that first meeting, we want the client to get trust in us. because we cannot give the client advice. We believe we cannot give the client advice if they don't trust us. So, and of course, to build trust does take time. And that is why our process is so important. And that's why we have a process. And I believe that many of you also have that process, is to build trust with the client. Okay, so what I'll do then is we'll jump into the next meeting. We'll schedule a follow-up meeting, which we call the introduction meeting. I just want to open that up here quickly. So now I know Dirk loves the wildlife, and as we have now, so if Marguerite has told me, listen, yeah, no, or Cindy has told me, Cindy has told me she loves lilies and she's passionate about flowers, or you know, I'll get an understanding of her, then I will get a photo that speaks to her. So that photo, I'm going to share my introduction meeting, which I will take you through now, is something that I bought him because I know Dirk. I know Dirk likes the wildlife. He likes to go to game farms and to nature, etc. And I think he loves elephants by the looks of it. So I found a photo that will speak to him. So immediately, and that is, I want the client to understand, hey, but this guys, listen to me. He heard me in my first meeting. And now suddenly he's bringing something in that I can relate to. And that's what we want the client to understand, that we listen. And that's what our name is as well. If you look at our name, which is LEAD, it's an acronym for listen, evaluate, advise, and develop. We brought our culture and what we stand for into the name of the firm. And that's what we strongly want to bring over to the client, that the client can have confidence and trust in us as people, and then also buying into the process, which we believe is the right way of planning. So I'm just going to go play from the start here. Wait, I'm just going to have to share I'm just going to share the screen, and I need to share sound. Dirk, I won't be able to see when I share. So just shout for me if you can see the slide, please. Okay. There we go.
Will do. Okay, we can see.
All right, so as you can see, introductory meeting, we will have there Mr. Soap or Mr. and Mrs. Soap. Now I've called it Passionate LFP because that's who we are. We're all passionate about lifestyle financial planning process. So it just speaks directly to the individual. And then, of course, like I've mentioned, I've brought this photo in because I know Dirk enjoys going to the Kalahari and so in this meeting, we will go through our lifestyle financial planning benefits, our lifestyle financial planning approach, exploring a bucket. We spoke about our services. We do speak about our fees, and then next step to an agreement to proceed. So so I would like to ask you, so many of you have seen the slide before. So I'm gonna, for those, so please bear with me for those who haven't seen it. So in this slide that you're seeing, there's number 1 in numerical order. It goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up until 99. I would like to see if you can get one, all in numerical order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See how many you can get in 20 seconds starting right now. Okay, that's it. So Dirk, if I can't see everyone's names, can you maybe ask just 2 or 3 people just to see how many that they got?
Simon, how many did you get? Okay,
Guys,
Becky,
I must
how many
admit,
did you get?
I missed the question, so I didn't even know what I was looking for. Apologies.
No problem. Okay, I see, Brian, you said you got 14.
I'm too embarrassed to say.
All.
Okay. Anyone else volunteer how many they got? I got 8, so I'm not as bright as.
I got 11.
Wow.
All right, great. So
I've got 9.
you got 1 to 8, 1 to 11, 14. Mostly people get under 10 if you give them that 20 seconds or so to find to find 1, 2, whatever. So if I tell you, I'm going to split this into quadrants, and if you start top left, this side, there we go, quadrant. If you start this side, sorry, 1 is here, 2 is, pardon. Can I continue?
Yeah, sorry guys, can you just turn your mics off if you're not going to speak? Thanks.
So if I split this into quadrants, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, carries on like that. Go, give it a bash again, 10 seconds. I'm going to reduce the time.
Sorry, Frank, just I didn't catch the initial question. What are you looking for in the
numerically? There's 1
yes.
to 99 here.
Yes.
So on this page. So you need to find in numerical order 1 to whatever number you can get in 20 seconds the first time, and I've just given 10 seconds. But the first page didn't have the quadrants. This page had the quadrants. Okay, so if I just pause there, most of you should have received or should have gotten a lot more knowing where to go to look for the next number. Am I correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what we then tell clients, so we do this exercise with clients when we do this introduction meeting. So they will sit in our meeting, and then we will present it, and we ask them the same process. Please find us this, and then also on this slide, then to ask them to do it again. And we explain to them then through our process the benefits of our lifestyle financial planning process, and the benefits thereof is that we help them to basically do this, because we understand that Google's got all the information. However, there's no strategy, even with ChatGPT, what do you call it, ChatGPT, or what is the right word? I've got it right. Even with that, it gives you all the info, but it doesn't understand you. It doesn't understand your circumstances. Yes, it's tools, it's great tools to be able to help. However, for information purposes and to help us even with our processes, however, it does not help the client to build the puzzle. I always tell clients, we basically hold up the puzzle box, you build it, we just help you with it. And that is the benefits of this process. So how do we do it? Which we've highlighted in our brochure. We refer to the 3 hats, which is our life planner hat, where we explore your lifestyle, understand you and your family, define your goals. Financial planner hat is where we partner with you, planning matches your lifestyle. We co-create the financial plan. We very much stress on the point co-create. It's not our plan, it's your plan. We just help you through that process, which we referred to earlier already. And then there's ongoing reviews. And we see this as the least important hat. However, it's still an important hat, which is the financial advisor hat. That's where we come to implementations, where we connect your lifestyle needs to solution, ongoing reviews, and management of your portfolio. So then we go into the bucket concept. So the bucket concept works as follows. I assume everyone can see the whiteboard, and very, very simple. Again, I am going very fast through this, Dirk. Okay. So in our bucket process, we just tell the client each of us has a bucket, and inside this bucket there is, which we call liquidity. I'm not Picasso, so please bear with me on my drawing skills. So we call it the liquidity process, and then in your bucket there's liquidity, and then we define liquidity. We say this is anything that you can turn into 17 to 14 days into cash. And then we'll say that, for example, bank account, for example, tax-free savings, for example, unit trust, for example, shares. So those type of things are things that's liquidity that you can very quickly turn into cash. And then we speak about when we now have spoken to the client and we get the feel of the client. Here we'll also ask the client, do you have any properties? Do you have a pension provident fund? And then we'll show them that that's it actually on top of the bucket. That's it outside the bucket. So we'll show them that your houses sit here, your let's call it your pension sits outside the bucket. And if they have businesses, we'll say, okay, your business is also outside your bucket. that is not liquidity, but the income that you get from them. If there's rentals, for example, we will talk about your current income stream, and we'll explain what that is. It might be a salary, it might be a rental from your properties if you have investment properties. It might be dividends if you have some shares. That is all income that flows into the bucket, which adds to your liquidity. And then we'll explain to them whatever is above the line. For example, your property. If you sell your property one day, the proceeds from that property becomes liquidity. Your pension fund, now with the 2-pot system, which is actually a 3-pot system, that we will explain that and say when that becomes that 1/3 that you withdraw down. Let's look at the current system still. The 1/3 that you draw down from that becomes liquidity. The 2/3 above is annuity. It's an annuity income. It's not part of your liquidity. The income thereof is liquidity. And then we'll discuss future income. So in this whole process, then we speak about taps. We talk about various taps. We talk about your current lifestyle tap and what that looks like. What that is your daily expenses, your monthly expenses, etc. That's your lifestyle. We'll explain that depletes the liquidity in the bucket. And then we'll at some stage you will close that tap and you will close up your second tap, which we call your retirement bucket. Your retirement, we call it actually your explore stage. That's when you go into retirement. That's when you start exploring. I just want to put this off, sorry. So in your exploration stage, we'll make these circles a little bit bigger. And the reason why we make it bigger is you start doing things that you maybe didn't at the time that you wanted to do during this stage. You had kids here, you had other obligations and other commitments. However, now in your exploration stage, which we call your first stage of retirement, you will be able to do a little bit more that you're passionate about. And that's why the circles is a little bit bigger. But eventually this tap will also close and you will open up your third tap, which we call your frail stage. Smaller circles. The reason why? You can't do those things that you wanted to do. Your body don't allow it. Your medical circumstances might not allow it. We all get frail. We only can do so much for so long. So in each of this life, let's call it life stage, you have your current lifestyle, your retirement lifestyle, which is your exploration stage, your first part of your retirement, and then your later years in retirement, which you call your frail stage. And that needs to sustain you until the day that you pass away. So the clients understand this. And then we refer to one extra tap, which we call your once off tap. So your once off tap, that's a tap that we open and close along the way in our life. For example, Cindy said she had 2 daughters. So one day if they get married, they're probably going to have to pay for a wedding. So boom, there's a tap that we need to open because there's some liquidity that's going to be drained. Dirk has got young kids there as grandchildren. So maybe one day he's going to help his grandkids for education or whatever the case might be. And boom, there's something that he's going to have to open up there. So that is your, or overseas holiday, whatever speaks to the client. So we try to bring that also directly to the client's circumstances. Again, that's a tap that you open and closes as you go along in life. And then we explain the client that these taps, that brings this bucket liquidity down. We, of course, all the other income brings the liquidity up. And the whole process of planning is about managing this. The better we can manage your bucket, the longer you can sustain your life. And then we challenge the client and we say the risk is that you can deplete this bucket, which means that you can outlive your life, you can outlive your capital. You can you've got a high inflation risk that you need to think of. Then we speak about a few risk factors that will influence the liquidity. And then one of the other things that I always highlight to the clients is, I actually took this away from someone else, is even worse. What if this bucket overflows? That might even be worse. And the client would say, but why would you say that? because then I'm going to ask, I ask the client, did you live? Did you live in life? Did you do the things that you wanted to do? And sometimes I will bring in one or two examples of an engagement with a client that we might have had, and where clients have realized this, for example, and when they started actually doing things in life that they never done before, purely because they could understand this. So most of our engagement with clients is this impacts the clients the most, this concept, because for them is it makes they start to understand. One of the clients that I sat with was also with a very reputable advisor. It was a difficult appointment for me, and I told the client that because it's a colleague and he does stuff right. And but the client, after seeing this, said to me, "But that is why we want to be part of your firm. That's why we want to be here," because they started understanding what they have and where it fits into their life, not just in their portfolio, into their life. So after explaining that on the whiteboard with the client, I just go back to the presentation and then say, okay, well, the liquidity, as we have just discussed, there is, sorry, I just need to, just need to share sound with the, includes computer sound, yeah. Dirk, I'm going to play a clip just now. If you can't hear it, just shout, please. So coming back here. So in our bucket, we will explain to them again. We'll just highlight the things that we've just explained, which is your liquidity. It's all your investment assets, 7 to 14, 12 days you can turn into cash. We explain what's outside the bucket. We refer to lifestyle assets, investment assets, business assets, surplus assets. As you can see, for those who know the RWP program, is that we bring the same language in to bring consistency, which the client eventually become accustomed to. And then we also talk about your current income stream, which we've just highlighted in that bucket process, your future income stream, and your disposal of assets, lump sums, when that becomes liquidity. And then we talk about the lifestyle taps, which is pre-retirement. We refer to post-retirement. We talk about later years in retirement, which we call your frail period, and then your once-off lifestyle needs. So after that, we then tell the client, if we look, for example, we will take and say, okay, so once we have done this, and once we have analyzed your bucket, and we understand all your taps and your income streams, etc., and your lifestyle, you'll be able to, your assessment might look like this in the blue. And then the scenario one, that's where we come in with you in co-creating your plan. And that is, we will fill the gap. Sorry, that whoopsie. As we will fill the gap. We call it your partner in finance. And that's what we're coming back to. We keep on talking to clients about we are your partner. And then we just do a summary of our services, which is basically
when it comes to people, we all know one size doesn't fit all. What works for him or her won't necessarily fly in this guy's world. We at Lead understand this, and we love finding just the right fit. Our team of friendly and approachable professionals develop a holistic strategy that adds sustainable value to protect your legacy. And because relationships are everything to us, we start by listening. So whether it's accounting, business consulting, financial and estate planning, or navigating through the complicated world of tax compliance, we can help. Our passion is to add value, honest, ethical, and for your benefit. Because we understand it's more than just your business that needs to succeed. It's all of you. Lead accountants and financial planners. Services you can trust.
So after we've taken through that, we just say, all right, so then we'll ask the client, we'll actually pause there for a while, and then we'll ask the client to just want to get their input on what we have covered so far, want to get their feedback, how do they feel about it, do they understand the concept so far. Again, it's a lot slower than this morning. We are rushing through all of this, and but the conversation just keep on flowing with the client. You'll see in the first meeting was all about the client, understanding the client, and getting to know the client and connect the client. The second meeting, which is introduction meeting, is actually positioning our process again. It's again the process of how do we position the process, and because we keep on hammering on that, and then also positioning our services through that animation video, not making it too much of a formal thing. It's a feel good animation, and we just want the clients to sort of feel lacquer, you know. And then what we go into is our fees, and we'll say, okay, we'll go into our fees, and in our fees proposition, we will we talk about the purpose and planning phase. We talk about then the next process. The next process after introduction meeting will be the discovery meeting. That's where we will take a deep dive into your values and your goals, and we will bring one or two things up that we've already picked up in other meetings. And then through that, after that, we will go into a co-creation, your lifestyle financial plan, again on the word co-creation with different scenario planning options. And we do ask a fee for that, which is payable over a 12-month period. And then our second, after the next phase will then be the implementation, management, and partnership phase. We do implementation of agreed upon actions after we've done this. And your portfolio and asset management, and then we'll ask a fee for that, which is ongoing review and assessment of your LFP, and that fee is based on your assets under management. So for this phase, we do ask a fee, which the client will pay over a 12-month period. Some clients have paid it up front. Some has opted for a debit order, and we just collect a debit order from them. We've got a debit order facility. And then on this phase, that's once we have, the clients are on board, we'll start ask a fee, which is recoverable through AUM. And after that, we will then ask the client, how do you feel? Do you want to? Would you like to continue? Would you like? We try to get the client to buy in then into the process. I can tell you 90% of the clients is buying into the process. I'm talking about young clients. I thought we might struggle with, but we've actually had a lot of young clients buying into the process. It's clients that we do want. We do position with clients to say, this is our ultimate, if we do assess the client and we see, yes, the client is going to be stretching for the client, we tell the client, okay, let's work towards this, but let's start with the basics now of assessing your portfolio. Just do the basic assessment and also try to give you advice, give you advice that's relevant to your circumstances on a much smaller case, a lower case of engagement. But we do tell them that we need to work towards this. But if the client is opt out, we're happy with it. We're very precise on, we know how we want to do it, and we know what is the right method for our clients and our process, which we strongly believe in. And I think that comes through very strongly with our clients, is that we believe that this is the right process, and through our belief, the client starts believing into the process as well. And then we'll go into the discovery meeting. The discovery meeting is also, that's a long meeting. It's also about 2 hours. That's where we will get a lot of information from the client, ask the client specific questions, which we also got documented. I won't go through, bore you with that right now, but it's also based on the IW, like I've mentioned to you, that first pager of, we look at career, education, etc. So our questions is then aligned with that brochure, with specific questions that we've recorded into each of those sections that we then, because that speaks to the IWP process again. So we make sure that the whole process is aligned to where, that all talk to each other. And then let's open this questionnaire again. Here we go. So what we do then is after the introduction meeting, the client will commit. What we will do, we will draft a quote for the client. Some clients just told us a lot of times, sign me up right now. Don't worry about the quote. What is the fee? This is the fee. Sign, boom, sorted. Let's go. Some clients said, okay, send me a quote. Let me think about it. They will come back to us maybe a month later or so, etc. They're willing to buy into the process, etc. And then we'll go for it. So it's really dependent. It's really dependent on each client, and after the discovery meeting, so before the discovery meeting, we will actually complete our letter of appointment, which is gathering all the information. We will send out a letter to the client, which is then clearly defining the letter. That's our appointment letter. We will draft a letter of engagement, which clearly define the scope of works and who the contact people is in the office. So we've developed a letter of engagement that's also quite comprehensive. Again, talking about the different phases of planning, talking about the hats, the 3 different hats, and also about the fees. And that goes out with the quote that the client can read that, also sign, come back with queries, sign the quote, accept the quote, which is all digital. And then we will send the email out to the client and schedule a date for the client for the discovery meeting. And in that, we will also ask the clients for a lot of information. That we will ask, for example, the antenuptial contract, and because now the client's committed. So now we need this. If there's divorce orders, cohabitation agreements, we'll get all the FICA document, trust documents, etc., company financial statements on the company if the client's not on the accounting side, etc. So then we start analyzing information, put it into the IWP. Then the discovery meeting. After that, we put everything into the IWP tool, and then we'll schedule a scenario planning meeting with the client after we've analyzed and captured all the information. But there's the whole time there's communication between us and the client. Our process is very digital as well. The client signed all documents digitally, and and after the scenario planning meeting, we will give the client, we'll get agreed upon actions or a scenario that the client agrees. That sometimes might be 2 or 3 meetings. It's not always 1 meeting. That can be 2, 3 meetings. It depends on the client circumstances and how complicated the client are regarding their affairs. And after that, we will send the client then the plan, which is also customized which Julian helped us with, and for their review and their assessment or queries or signature. So either or, if they're happy with it, they sign it off, we sign it off, and we also start immediately then with the implementation if there is implementation to be done. But this whole process, it doesn't just happen. Sometimes it takes a year before you get to implementation. Sometimes it's a month. Sometimes, a lot of times, it takes a long time. So, for example, the one client who I can share with you, or would like to share with you, is clients who's got a lot of assets offshore. They got a lot of assets locally. However, their finances and their budget was a mess. And before we did anything, we said, okay, after assessing it, we can see you have a cash flow problem. We can see that this step here, the first step, and we bring back to this bucket concept all the time because they understand this language, is that whatever is coming in, the step here it's too big. It drains this bucket all the time. And so what we're working on for 6 months is just fixing their budget. So we've got a 6-month focus just on getting their budget right and getting their budget under control. And then we have a follow-up meeting to say, okay, now we'll talk about, okay, what's the next steps? So we've done no business. And they're paying for the process. They've committed to that. They wanted to. And however, there wasn't capacity for the shortcomings that there was in their planning, after even using all the different buttons that we can use. But we said, okay, let's just fix on the budget, 6 months, and then we reassess and we engage again in the process. And that just creates trust with the client as well. So yeah, I think I'm going to pause there. I've spoke a lot, and I've really mumbled along because there's so much information I want to give you, and I want you to see that again. I think if we can focus on getting a point across, whatever your process is the client needs to understand planning is a process. It's not a click of a button solution. It is very much a process to get to where we're working towards, and it will take time. So all of our documents, you will also see, even what I've discussed with you now, as I'm reading on the right-hand side, our documents, we've got a documented process, and our documented process refers to documents in our operationals manual. which means it's very easily traceable, which is it's got checklists in. So, for example, my receptionist and my personal assistant and also paraplanner, they know exactly. There's a documented process. They can go through it. They can print the process out for each process and actually just follow it step by step to help them guide as well, to make sure that the relevant checkbox, if I call it checklists, get ticked off as we go along. And we actually do keep a checklist as well on which date what has happened, and just to track it as well. Okay, sorry, there was a lot.
Frank, that was great. Thanks so much. Before I forget, one thing quickly, I mean, I really love the process and everything, but when you go through this, and let's say you've got a client and you can see straight away, hang on, there's a problem here. Let's just say something simple like there's no risk cover in place. Do you then say, look, because obviously I understand what you say when you say this can take a year. I mean, because there's a list of things that need to be ticked off and done, like cash flow and all that.
Yeah.
But do you look at that? Because obviously that is an immediate threat that could disrupt the plan. So how do you handle that part of it?
100%, Dirk. So it is, like I've mentioned earlier, just looking at the lilies, if I could use that as an example with Cindy, is if I see a lily which needs to be highlighted, 100%, I'll go there and I say, listen, this is an immediate shortfall. You are exposed here because of X, Y, Z, and this is, and we do stress the fact towards the client that the biggest asset that you have in life is your ability to earn an income. We stress that so much with the client, and if that ability is taken away, that needs to get funded in some way through by covering your risk or enough liquidity in your bucket, etc. So 100%, we do address it and we do highlight it, and we say, listen, I do think we need to step this way in the interim, but we're still going to continue with the process. So we do address it if we see there's an immediate need. 100%.
Okay, then Frank, how many people do you have in a meeting, and how do you record your notes? So there's notes in my mind. There are notes which are like, okay, this is what's happening now, and then what we call a client bio, which is notes, which is like the deeper background about the person, things that you kind of want to note that you might want to read up in a year or two's time.
Okay, so what we do is when I have a meeting I will have a meeting with the client, the first meeting, or an advisor will have the first meeting, and then we just write down the notes. But after the meeting, we actually send an email out to the client, and to say we keep a minutes of record, minutes of meeting, which we will highlight a few things that we need to highlight, or whether we want to keep, that we need to remember. So we write it just down and keep note of it in a book or whatever, and then and then we'll bring it back into an email format, which we'll send to the client, and it's mainly for our records as well. And then when we get into the discovery meeting, that's all documented. So even in the discovery meeting, all our questions is in a document. And what we'll do is, even through the first meeting, whatever pointers we want to take out of there, we'll bring it into we'll pre-prep our discovery meeting and bring those notes just in there as well, whatever needs to come.
Okay. And then, I like that you pause, that you kind of push away the product talk. I mean, that's
very much so.
Because we just know the minute you start that, you can never come back from it. It's done. It's like a poison chalice.
100%.
And then also, that what I really like you said is that your process is something that the client needs to experience. And when there's so much talk about a value proposition and your value add, and we believe in our business that you need to experience. Once you've experienced, then they can feel the value, because to put our value down on paper as a lifestyle planner is extremely difficult. And then just two things. That video was really cool. So number one, the cost of something like that.
So I had a mate to help me with it. He's got his own advertising company, and I was actually his guinea pig on developing animation, which he did it. So he did it for me. It was expensive, but he did it for me cheap. Expensive, cheap. So mine cost 20K, but it cost a lot more than that. Actually, animation is actually quite expensive. The guys ask a lot of money for it because you need to have voiceovers and all of those type of things as well. So they do. It does become very, very expensive.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So
so my advice
just
is get
tell
a
the
friend
group,
who's in that industry.
yeah, or speak to Ben in our team, because Ben's done some work like that for us with, I forget what the app is called, but it's really cool.
Okay.
But it is nice. And then finally, from my side, may I ask you about the fee that you charge for onboarding? Does that vary? Is it a fixed fee? And then your AUM fees, do you have a sliding scale? How does that work?
Yes, so we do have a sliding scale on our AUM, and on the planning fee, it's nothing. It's the minimum fee that we charge there is 1.5 per month for 12 months. That's our minimum fee, and it really, it just cover cost, because the process, as you know, it's nothing under 20 hours. If you take this whole process into consideration, and even the more complex get the client, it can take 40 hours. So so the whole process does take, I'm talking about process from the first engagement up until the last scenario plan. So that is a very, very long process, and yeah, so we charge minimum of 1.5 per month.
Okay, and would you offset that against any potential risk that you did in the meantime? Or
No.
if the guy just said, look, I hate my advisor, just take my 10 million under 5 million under management.
Okay, if I get a client like that, no, you know what? We don't. We actually haven't offset any of the fees, because we believe the process, if it's a client for 15, 20, 30 million, 100% different discussion, then for sure. But we haven't had I'm just trying to think, we haven't had a case like that yet. But if we do know that it's going to immediately offset, and the client comes in, okay, just take this, and I want to get rid of this guy, we will definitely then have a look at it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but we haven't to date, haven't had a case like that.
Yeah, look, we don't do that, but I do. What I do like is that it is one way of getting commitment from the clients, and it also does separate that initial process from the part where you look after the money kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So for us, it is important, because also that AUM, upfront, if you get now a 10, 15, 20 million from the client upfront immediately, it's going to cost a lot of your input time. It's going to cover a lot of your input time within the first 12 months. So I think for fairness, you're probably going to have a discussion with the client in that regard. If the client brings it up, if the client asks me for that, I will probably go that way. Otherwise, I'm like, no, this is going to cost us a lot of bucks from upfront, because the process does take time to analyze. And again, I want to come back to my disclaimer in the front, especially for the younger, let's call it the newer guys in this industry. We didn't have this from day one. This is something that we've developed over time, and over time we've created. And I still believe that young guys coming in, it's difficult to pitch this from day one, because you need to build clients, etc. Get that, and I understand that. We're fortunate enough now to be able to say, but this is our process, and these are the clients that we want to get in. So let's come back to that question: what is your enough? Is $1 billion enough, or is 300 million under asset under management enough? If you are happy with 300,000 Rand under asset management, then your service offering might look a little bit different than someone who's chasing $1 billion. So it's coming back to that question: what is your enough? We know what's our enough, and with that, we know sort of what clients we really would like to have, because we've had those in 20 years. We've had those clients like all of you they will take 80% of your time, but they don't even bring 5% in of your income. So we don't want those clients anymore, and we're happy to be without those clients.
Okay, thanks, Frank. Okay, questions from the floor, guys.
Dylan asked one in the chat about risk and estate planning.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Dylan, we actually do estate planning also using the IWP tool. So I use that as well with different scenario planning on estate planning. So even our process is very much assessing the estate as well. It is holistic. So for sure, we do use the IWP as well for part of the estate plan.
Any other questions, guys?
I have a question. So you have your coffee meeting. Thanks very much for that. It was amazing. I related to a lot of it because I've done bucket stuff. Before your coffee meeting, do you have any criteria as to who you're going to have that coffee meeting with?
Yeah, Cindy, that's a good question. It's so difficult to assess who the other person is. So what I do is, if we can get information from the client beforehand, then we'll do a little bit of a assessment. But it's also, I will do it to use it to be able to connect with the client. So for example, the one client was a transport company and they've reached out to schedule a meeting. I actually went to their website, sort of see who they are. And from that, I took it. And when I got into the meeting, I was like, okay, I can use that to connect with the client again. So it is a difficult one if you don't know the person from a bar soap. But we do, yeah, there's a lot of meetings, coffee meetings. That was only coffee. But it is difficult. If I could do an assessment up front, yeah, I would love to, because it will just reduce the amount of time that's wasted.
Anybody else? Becky, sorry, Becky, you got your hand up.
Yeah, no, thanks. Dave, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Frank. I think that was quite an informative and insightful presentation. I think a bit of the questions I wanted to ask, I think, Dave, you've asked them around the fee structure and that sort of initial fee that you collect over a year. I think you said 1,500, if I got you right. I just wanted to find out on that piece, like what's been your experience with clients paying that sort of fee? Because I think for the longest time in the industry, advisors have sort of, either taken the commissions or the AUM model, but not a lot of advisors have been successfully able to almost like take a fee for service, that you're doing. So I just want to get a sense of your journey with that. And I certainly agree with the point that it's probably quite a tough one for a young person in the industry to pitch that one from the get-go. So maybe just a sense of when you started implementing that. Was that with all your clients? Is that with a particular subset of clients that you found, would get the concept and are willing to pay for that? So that's the one question. The other question is around, I think you had a slide with life planner, financial advisor and life planner, I think something like that, right? So, I mean, one of the things that I've been quite involved with in the industry for the last 10 years is around financial coaching, right? And I'm curious, you didn't use that term. You used life planner and financial advisor. So I certainly agree with ending with financial advisor. So I just want to get a sense, your thoughts around financial coaching. Is that a terminology or a concept you use, or maybe you use it more as a noun than as a verb? Just your thinking around that. But great presentation, and thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. First of all, I want to ask you, how much do you ask if I can contract you to speak about clients, because you've made two clients because you spoke about the importance of financial planning and versus your current your job history, so and your qualifications. So took note of that. Do you charge a fee to speak to our clients? No. So yeah, good question.
I do. Coincidentally, it's also 1,500 as well per session. So I don't know who copied the other one, whether I copied you or you copied me with that fee rate. Yeah.
So yeah, Becky. So on just to come back to your first question or comment regarding the positioning of the fees, I think that was the first one. So for us, we actually had to overcome our fear of not positioning the fees. We were fearful. It's like, to position this industry is not used to this. This is going to be new. What's going to be the success? What's going to be the uptake? Do we position other offering with it? And we do have the other offering, like I've mentioned to you earlier, where we do a simple assessment on clients, just to see what shortfalls they might have in their portfolios if they want to go that route. And again, we do have quite a big buy-in from young to older clients in this. And we do find that the young professionals actually do not mind paying the fee. Where maybe those who's not professionals, we find that it's a little bit more difficult. And but then if we assess our ideal client base, we want to partner with a lot of the professionals if we've identified them as clients that we would like to walk with in their journey of life and planning. So we first of all, we had to overcome it. We had to overcome the fear of actually positioning the fee and the cost for this process. However, we truly believed in the value of the process, but we now, time has given us enough experience to have confidence and to say, this is the process and this is what you pay for it. And as soon as we the client sort of like, whoa, but if we come overconfident and non-arrogant and say, this is our process, and you're really, and the client understand the value of the process, we find that they actually buy in quite quickly into the fee for the first 12 months. I had a client, one of my clients who bought into it, said to me, Frank, I would have paid you more for that process, just to share as well. And sorry, more than one. The one was actually a married couple, and the other one was a young lady. So yes, we had to overcome it first to position it, and since we have done that, we found that it was a lot easier for clients to follow. Regarding the language, I don't like the word. I found that the industry throw the word coaching very loosely, that word very loosely around. Coaching is specific. Coaching, I also believe, is something that you need to get qualified in before you can call yourself a coach. I actually, incidentally, have done a coaching qualification through the US a few years ago, and I still don't use it. I actually still use the partnership language, not a coach, because a coach is like, that doesn't talk to partnership for me. So our language that we want to use is like, we're partnering with you, and we plan with you. So we don't want to feel like we sit here and the client is here. They very much want to let the client feel like we're here with them, and it's not that type of relationship. I hope that answered the question.
Just one last point on that. So thanks for that, Frank. So that's quite insightful. I probably should do a coffee with you, because I'm curious, a little bit deeper on that point, because I view coaching quite differently, actually. So I mean, I've done coaching with UCT, and I've been involved with coaching programs both with Alan Gray and Momentum, and coaching for me is a peer relationship, right? So financial advisor is actually what I see as one that's higher than the other. But coaching, you actually come into a peer relationship with the client. So it's insightful that you perceive the terminology and the concept as somewhat putting yourself above the client, when I think of it as putting myself at the same level with the client. But I don't want to labor the point, but maybe we should do coffee. I just want to understand that point a little bit more, because I'm quite sort of convinced on coaching generally. So I'll be very, very curious to pick into your brains there, given your success in the space, and why you think differently. But thanks.
That's good. Now, I do see it very much. Just want to end, but we can have a coffee. It would be great. I do see it as yeah, as well, 100%. I'm actually just referring to clients' perception that it can create. So that's why we're very specific on the language, because we want clients to see this. We don't want clients to have a perception of, you know, there's a gap. We want clients to see this relationship very much so.
Frank, so just the way I see it is, you know, in the US, they think American football is the greatest sport in the world. We think it's rugby. Well, we know it's rugby. And I think the difference is, you know, when there's a field goal, there's one guy on the team, all he does is kick field goals. So he's in the squad, that's all he does. Whereas in rugby, and he just does coaching. That's the way I see it. Whereas in rugby, you need a flyer who can kick the ball, who can pass, who can tackle, who can do all kinds of things. And that's kind of the way I see it. I mean, I've also done all these courses, and I've always come back to the fact is, like, what do? We financial planners, but these are all skills that we develop. You know, Rob McDonald talks about a coaching way of being. And I agree with Becky. I think a coach is very different to a lifestyle. You've got a financial planner, then a lifestyle financial planner. And I know all these terms do is confuse the shit out of the public. So I don't think it's ideal. But I think what's more important is looking past titles and looking as to what do we actually do. And all of these things are then on part of our skill set, which just keeps increasing, getting better all the time. One question I want to ask, would you, and I understand on this call, there are people at all different levels of development, and there are businesses, they're all involved in businesses of different sizes. We've got people in corporate, we've got one-man bands, we've got small businesses here. Would you be able to build your business on that 1,500 Rand fee?
If I just charge that.
Yeah.
My current practice size, or if you talk about a
one-man
show.
Yeah. So and this is Brian already knows what I'm talking about, but don't get me wrong, because there's especially with the youngsters coming in, there are opportunities where they can get in and pay and charge an amount like that. Now, we costed our onboarding process about 5 years ago, and it was about 15,000 then. So, you know, that 5 years later, that wouldn't even cost, that wouldn't even cover our first cost up, but that's based on our business, our systems, our staff makeup, and everything that we have. But everyone can make that fit the way that they do. And I like what you said about, you keep saying we weren't like this 5 years ago, and in 10 years, 5 years from now, you'll probably be different again as well. So I think you don't even need to answer the question. I think that's kind of what I was trying to say. I also like what you say is that for newcomers in this industry, there is so much talk again about the whole fee thing, and I think there's just way too much airtime. There should be far more talk. You also someone spoke about, it was Marguerite who spoke about the good and the bad in the industry. I often fall into the part where I get controversial, and then I find sometimes I'm doing too much negative talk instead of positive talk. I'm talking down what the majority does versus talking more about the good that we do. But it's a difficult balance to find. I see June's got a hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Frank, for sharing again. I think it was amazing. A lot of passion that shines through. So maybe just a question. You mentioned that maybe not a lot, but there are coffee chats that just remains coffee chats. Okay. So how do you let the clients go that you don't want to proceed with? How does that process look like? What does it look like?
So we've had cases like that. Where I'll actually tell the client, listen, we've actually had recently one. I mean, it's a client that's been a client of ours, but it's been a very, very tough client. So the client has had some AUM with us, and I was actually wishing the client would leave. So just, but when the client actually, I said to the client, he said, you know, I'm going to get another opinion here and this. I'm like, you know what, go for it. You're more than entitled to it. Go for it. And when he parted way, And when we parted way, I'm like, I wish you all the best. So even when we engage with clients, and I feel it's a client that it's not going to be the right fit for us or us for them, I would tell the client, I don't think, our relationship is I don't think it's going to be a fruitful relationship. I don't think it's going to be beneficial for either party. Your belief system is a little bit different than ours, but I would put it in nice words. But I will put it into words where I don't offend the client, but also where we can say, listen, okay, maybe the time is not right, or maybe this is not going to work. Because you can also feel, if you're going to definitely feel when you don't have clients that's going to fit your profile. So yes, June, we do have tough conversations, but it's always out of a place of mutual understanding to not continue with it.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, Brian's asking, do you have a list of people to refer the failed prospects to?
Brian, no. Good question.
Frank,
from consider.
Yeah, from my side, because you run an accounting practice as well, am I correct in saying the accounting business came first?
Yes, very much so. So when I finished with my articles and I was a manager at a firm for 2 years afterwards, offered partnership, and then I started my own firm. So the firm started an accounting practice, very much so, and the LFP side was slowly built over the years, where I'm transitioning a lot more into that at the moment, because I'm getting enough qualified people to actually take the accounting or take that burden away from me.
Okay, so a lot of us, as we build our businesses, we focus on one area, but obviously when you put your business hat on, it does make sense if you have trusted relationships to see what other services you can offer, which could include accounting, it could include short-term, it could include estates. Do you do estates?
Yeah, we do take appointments, but we actually work with other attorneys to handle the appointment on our behalf, and then we have a split relationship fee with them.
Okay, so what do you believe that? So the clients that you're getting now, are they existing accounting clients that then ask you about the investment side, which you then convert to LFP, or are they referrals from other LFP clients, and then do those often then convert to become accounting clients as well?
So it's very much the accounting client feeds the LFP side. And then but we also do find that there's a lot more inquiries on the LFP side from individuals outside the firm. So actually, some of the LFP clients that I've picked up lately is actually non-accounting clients. That's on the accounting side. And so I have been fortunate enough to be part and parcel of the PSG concept when it was developed many years ago, regarding putting advisors at accounting auditing firms. I was working at that auditing firm when they started with that type of concept. So I got exposure on that with Kulu and PV Moelman back in the day of sort of what that looked like. So that did give me exposure as well of how to develop that side. So I was fortunate enough to be exposed to that process.
Okay, great. And LFP clients who aren't accounting, do you find that, so firstly, do you do any kind of motivating for them to become accounting clients, or does that come from them at all?
So that comes from them. We will, if we do see it's a bit of a mess, if we see the financial statements or the lack of financial statements, we will discuss the importance of proper reporting, because the client is holistic. Your business might be your main source of income. If that's not set up correctly, and if that reporting is not done well, then you're going to struggle in your personal circumstances in any case. So we'll always discuss that concept with them. I also have financial, I do have other colleagues that refer their clients to us on the accounting side. it's a no-go zone for us to go on the LFP side and on the financial planning side. We just don't touch that. So I've got other friends in the industry, which also does things right, if I can call it like that, and maybe not this full process that we're talking about, but they're still doing things right. They're not salespeople, so their clients that they do refer, I don't touch that. I don't. There's a professional understanding and ethics that are code that I adhere to in that regard.
Any other questions, people?
I think it's good for those who don't have even for the youngsters who don't have the same platform as what I do. I think it's important to have very good strategic partners, which you can have a referral or build a relationship with, where you can have cross referral, attorneys, accountants, etc. Because that is how you can feed each other businesses and help you grow your book as well. I think if you can get affiliated, even if it's old school friends from varsity days, or other friends that you've made in life, if they are positioned in other firms, I think you need to tap into those type of networks to be able to get cross references and cross referrals to help you grow your book, and you of course help them again in return as well.
Great, thanks, Frank. Becky, you have a question?
Frank, so I was just curious on your REM models for your staff. So, like, firstly, if you're able to share, obviously, like how many staff do you have? How many of them are client-facing advisors? How many are paraplanners, and how many are not even in the advice space? Maybe admin, marketing, whatever the case might be. And how do you pay these people? And how do you create enough margins in your business to make sure that there's enough fit to keep everybody sheltered? With your advisors, are you paying them a split, and what is that split? Because I mean, one of the reason I asked this, Frank, is it's a little bit of a trick question, because it often costs too much for practices to pay advisors, and then they're just not left with enough money to build a business. So you just end up sort of paying the advisors really well. A few people do extremely well, but then the system doesn't work, because then the business is not liquid enough or profitable enough overall to grow something meaningful. So I'm just thinking from a business owner perspective, like how do you think about that, and how do you pay all of these people, and how much do you even pay them, if you don't mind me asking directly like that?
Okay. Becky, if you have an answer, I would love to. If you got the solution, I would like to have it. I think that is the biggest challenge in our industry as independents, is that so now, if I look at what these kids are taught at university and promises that they've been made, I believe that's where the problem starts, through corporates and even through lectors, professors, what they teach in the opportunities and the potential they're telling these kids they're going to step into in the industry. They have such an expectation of when they get out of their degree, this is what I'm going to earn. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in this industry. So in 20 years, my firm's 20 years old this year, I've trained over 30 people. And 18 of that successfully completed their internship to become qualified accountants. So I've managed to train 18 accountants successfully in 18 years who qualified, finished their board exam, qualified, and they now in corporate, or one or two of them started their own firm, etc. And then some of them are working here. And the LFP side, I've managed to successfully train and keep financial planners 0. That is the most difficult industry to keep youngsters and to let them understand. You need to understand this is a process. So this industry's got a long way to go, I think, on training independents the correct process and letting them, because if you pay them a cost, you need to make money out of them at some stage. There's cost attached to a firm. You can't have training just for free and they go off and it just costs you money. So you're still running a business. And with accountants, you know, when you train accountants, auditors, it takes maybe a year. Then you start recovering money in the next 2 years from when they make money for your firm. When you look at financial planners, I've started with a commission structure, and I'm like, okay, this is not going to work. Then I started with a fixed salary, and hoping that will work. But the guys don't stay because they have this perception that they need to earn X. And as soon as a corporate knocks on the door and they find them, boom, they're gone. And that's unfortunately, I think, that we struggle with in the industry. Is how do we keep these guys? How do you keep them? How do you keep them to stay committed to the process? Again, it's a process, you know. And to answer your question, we 12 people at the office. On the financial planning side, I'm the only advisor currently. My other advisor was pinched by Investec. Sorry, I'm throwing out names there. And but yeah, it's difficult. So I'm at a stage now where I actually do not want to train the advisor anymore, purely because for 20 years I struggled to make one loss. So it's just where I am in my mental capacity space at the moment. Maybe something I'll look at again in a year's time, but at the moment it's a no-go zone for me because I've struggled so much with it.
We've got 2 reasons then for a coffee, Frank. Eh? I'll give you a shout when I'm baking this thing.
Cool.
Thanks for the answer. All right, cheers, bro.
Yeah. Guys, we're over time. Frank, so much for that honest answer. And I think it's the simple truth. But yeah, we've got to find an answer for it somehow, because you know, the problem is that the industry is not set up for youngsters, and perhaps certain youngsters also don't have the patience levels that they need, and that is because they've been misled's a big word, but probably what they've been. That's what's happened. You know, over time. But I think if they compare it to someone doing articles for accounting or law, it takes them many years before they get to a position where they are earning enough to, you know, to raise a family and all that. So it's a really, really tough thing that we could maybe have a session on that sometime as well. Thanks.
It's changing, yeah. Just last thing on that, sorry to interrupt you. Just one thing I wanted to mention that is that people need to understand it's a career you're building. It's not a job. It's not a if you, as soon as mentally, it's something that we can discuss in a session again. But it is where accountants, auditors, lawyers, they understand they're building in a career. Where I don't think financial planners, young guys, get that yet. I'm not talking about this group. I'm just speaking in general on that. But we can discuss that. It will be a great topic for discussion.
Now, I think we can include the group. We're all there, both sides. But that's the beauty about this group. It's brutally honest. And because, I mean, it's just the reality. Some of us are owners, and some of us are starting our careers. I think another problem is that many businesses aren't run as a business. Now, our industry talks about a practice.
100%.
A practice is a doctor, and he sits in a room where he shares secretaries with 3 other doctors. We need to be building firms and businesses. Once we do that, then we can look at the kind of structures that make sense. But there's a challenge there.
Yeah, and refer to profession, not to industry. Refer to a profession. Yeah.
Frank, thanks so much. It was really, really brilliant.
Thanks,
I admire the work that you've done, and and keep going, guys. Thanks. I'll have the recording out sometime, maybe not today because I've got quite a busy day. But any ideas for our next chat? It's August. We've got September, October, November, 3, maybe one early in December. But yeah, thanks, guys, and stay well.
Thanks, Dirk. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Dirk. Thanks, Frank.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks,
Take care.
Frank. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, all.